Good morning, everyone. My name is Jay Irby. I'm the Triangle Area Executive for First Citizens Bank. And on behalf of the Chamber and First Citizens, I'd like to welcome everybody to the C-Suite's Perspective. We appreciate you joining us virtually today. In a few moments, we're going to have the opportunity to hear from Todd Olson, the co-founder of Pendo. And throughout the presentation, if you've got questions, we ask that you submit those questions using the question box in the control panel. Now, I know everybody's excited to hear from Todd, but before we kick it over to our speaker, I'd like to take a moment and recognize our sponsors for obviously their continued support of the C-Suite's Perspective and the Chamber. Our diamond sponsors are Marsh & McClendon Agency, C3 Advantage, and the Pinehurst Resort. And our series sponsors are Carolina Hurricanes and Green Resources. So now our diamond sponsors are going to have an opportunity to make a few comments. I'd like to introduce William Salmon from the Marsh & McClendon Agency.
Good morning. Thank you, Jay. Good morning. My name is William Salmon. I'm a Senior Vice President with Marsh & McClendon Agency based here in Raleigh. Great to be here with you virtually this morning. Certainly look forward to when we can get back together face to face. But I want to thank the Chamber, all the sponsors, everyone who's participating today, and especially Todd. Todd, we really look forward to hearing from you and hearing about the awesome success and growth of Pendo. I've had the opportunity to hear you before at NC State in some of the leadership series, and it's just great to have a company in our own backyard that's done as well and is doing as well as Pendo. So look forward to that for sure. Marsh & McClendon Agency, we're a global risk management and employee health and benefit firm. We work with employers to design, manage really efficient and effective insurance programs. Our job is to help you control costs, manage costs over time, while again, providing quality benefits and quality insurance programs. We ask our clients, one of the things we do is we really like to talk to our clients and understand from our clients, hey, what's important to you, right? What kind of service, capabilities, additional resources can we provide to you to help you run your business more effectively? And obviously in this unprecedented time we're in now with the pandemic, COVID-19 is on everyone's mind, right? So early on, our MMC family of companies designed a COVID-19 resource page. That's available to our clients. It's also available to companies and organizations that are not our clients. It's a resource we want to provide to everyone that needs the resource. Four main components to that. We have a COVID monitoring dashboard. It's a global dashboard. We pull in data from all over the world, update that on a continuous basis to look at areas of, okay, hotspots, what's going on in the UK, what's going on in France, what's going on in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's a way that you can track and trace for your own company and maybe COVID exposures or folks that have potentially had COVID. The second is a mental health toolkit. We all know how stressful this time has been for everyone, for kids, for parents, working from home, they're teaching their kids in school, they're just juggling a lot of different things. So everyone needs some support, additional support. So we've created with our clinical team and our clinical resources, a mental health toolkit that's available to our clients and really for their employees. The third thing is everyone is talking about the vaccine now. When are we going to get the vaccine? How's the vaccine going to be distributed? How are we going to get it to our facilities that are not maybe in one location, but all over the world, all over the country? So a lot of vaccine educational resources for both the employer and employees. We have webinar sessions, we have printed materials, posters they can put in their break rooms, put out on their internet. Obviously not a lot of folks are in their break rooms right now, unfortunately, but just a lot of good communication materials. And then the final piece that we've developed and we continue to maintain through our compliance team and our group of attorneys is a legislative update section. So things like the CARES Act, the paid leave policies that are state specific, right? Certain states are doing different things around paid leave related to COVID. So up-to-date information from a legislative standpoint is available to you as well. Feel free to visit our website at marshmma.com or you can look us up online, mmamidatlantic.com. Thank you for your time today. Hope everyone has a great day and a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, William, and thanks to the Marsh & McClendon Agency for sponsoring this event. Next, we have the opportunity to hear from Shara Scanlon at C3 Advantage.
Thank you, Jay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Cheryl Scanlon. I'm president and founder of C3 Advantage. We're an executive coaching firm based in Raleigh, North Carolina. We work with executives and business leaders to drive success. We've attended these C-suite events for years. I'm looking forward to hearing from Todd today. I always take copious notes, and I'm continuing to share this information with the C-levels that I work with. It is an honor for me to spend time with you in this way and share a little bit more about myself. Executive coaching is a relationship that helps leaders identify and solve the right problem with the right tools at the right time. And the most important factor we have found in driving this success is clarity. This is Bob's story. A new client, Bob, came to his coaching session furious. Through acquisitions, the company had quadrupled in size in 2 years. The personnel issues, however, seemed to have increased 100-fold. Divided loyalties, clashing cultures, conflicting approaches to customer service were putting the squeeze on his stamina. He is a generous employer with his money, but he was stingy with one very important thing, himself, including listening to his people and their concerns. As he walked through his intense frustration with me, he discovered that it was rooted in fear. His greatest fear was losing the two key people that were required to make this expansion work. They were at odds with one another and with him. Through coaching, and in less than 2 weeks, he began to approach his team differently, cleaning up a toxic environment that inadvertently had begun with himself. In the case of Bob, his problem was he thought his people didn't care or appreciate his generosity as an employer. The real problem, however, was that his people didn't feel appreciated by Bob as a person. So let's look at what happened for Bob when he had clarity. First, he was able to properly identify the problem. The problem was his people needed to be appreciated in a new way unfamiliar to Bob. He chose to sit down with his team members, listen to their concerns, and surprised by the discovery that genuine commitment was really there to the welfare of the company. Secondly, he aligned resources, including roles and responsibilities, so that the team members are much clearer on their place of contribution. And what this did was remove this competitive and resentful environment that had started to grow. And this will lead to a course of action that supports overall goals of the business, accelerated by the speed of trust. How much do you think that one phone call was worth to Bob? Over the past 15 years, I've worked with clients from startups to Fortune 10 companies in just about every business sector. As a result of coaching, clients have seen significant positive results across multiple aspects of their business, including 20x plus return on their investments. At C3 Advantage, we believe that gaining clarity is critical for a leader to achieve success. Our approach to coaching helps leaders find that clarity, moving forward with conviction and courage. Where do you need clarity? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Cheryl, and thank you for C3 Advantage for your sponsorship. So next up, we've got a video from our diamond sponsor, Pinehurst Resort.
In a place like this, you feel the magic at every turn. It lies in all the stories it has to tell. Ones of extraordinary achievement and inspired innovation. In the stories authored here at Pinehurst.
There's some courses that linger in your memory, always, and Pinehurst is at the top of the list.
Pinehurst just has so much in it, so much variety, and it has so much character, and it's just so much fun to play.
It looks like you are playing back in the 40s and 50s, and I think that's the beauty of the place. We know the history and the tradition of the game, and a lot of it started here.
There's a reason why they call this place the cradle of American golf. You can't help but feel the soul of the game here. For 125 years, all the game's greats have walked these grounds, driven these fairways, and putted these greens.
Michael Campbell is going to win the U.S. Open.
At Pinehurst, careers have been made, and champions have been crowned.
Haynes Stewart is the 1999 U.S. Open champion.
But the magic of Pinehurst is so much more than heroics on the course. Its unique design, genuine hospitality, and timeless tradition attracts golf fans from all over the world. Restoration and renovation have both memorialized the past and ensured the spirit of Pinehurst will endure and continue to evolve as we look toward the future. That the magic will never fade, that a place like this remains unlike any other in the world. 125 years and counting. One smile, one round, one moment at a time.
Thank you, Pinehurst, for that video and for your sponsorship. I've got to admit, I've never had to follow Samuel Jackson before, but I'll do my best. Finally, my company, First Citizens Bank, is proud to be the title sponsor of the C-Suite's Perspective. It's been our privilege to serve in this capacity over the years, and we've had the opportunity to hear from some of the top leaders in the Triangle area, such as Todd, and hear their leadership lessons. For those of you who are unfamiliar with First Citizens Bank, we were founded in 1898. In a small town of Smithfield, North Carolina. And now 123 years later, we're still headquartered right here in Raleigh, even though we also serve customers in 19 states and over 500 locations from coast to coast. We've got over $49 billion in assets, so we provide the strength and stability and resources of all the national banks, but we also can give you the personal attention you'd come to find at a community bank as well. As many companies in our community are dealing with the pandemic, we've continued to do our part to serve our customers and our communities. I'm proud that we've been able to keep our lobbies open through June while keeping our associates and our clients safe. Right now, we're in the middle of our second round of our SBA Paycheck Protection Program, and we're working side by side with our clients that are interested in both the first round and the second round. We're also assisting them with the forgiveness piece as well. And we feel like being an active partner in that is important. I have to say, we employ some really talented, excellent folks at the bank. I'm proud to work with them each and every day. I'm proud that our sales and our service line played a major role in helping our families and businesses right here in the Triangle throughout this pandemic. I have to say that I believe that they proved to the community just how essential their roles are in this pandemic. And during these trying times, we understand that working in a community means being part of the community. And that's why we partner with the Chamber. And that's why we are proud to sponsor the C-Suite's Perspective. So now it's my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker for today. Todd Olson is the co-founder and CEO of Pendo, a platform that accelerates successful product adoption. Three-time entrepreneur Olson teamed up with fellow project leaders from Red Hat, Cisco, and Google to launch Pendo in October of 2013. Founded and headquartered in Raleigh, the company has since raised $206 million in venture capital and landed nearly 2,000 customers that employs 460 folks across 7 offices around the globe. In 2020, Pendo ranked 26th on the Inc. 5000 and has been named an Inc. Best Place annually since 2018. Todd's passion for helping digital teams build great products led him to write his first book, The Product-Led Organization, Drive Growth by Putting Product at the Center of Your Customer Experience, and it was published in September of 2020. Please join me in welcoming Todd Olson.
Thank you, Jay. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to share my screen here. I realize that many of you are curled up on your couch. This very cold and rainy day here in Raleigh. Listening to the Chamber of Commerce, and I don't know if I'm necessarily going to have a lot of lessons or answers, but rather hopefully some thought-provoking topics and something like starting your Friday morning with conversations around topics like diversity and inclusion and what they mean to your organization. So I can promise that the next 35 to 45 minutes will be perfectly uncomfortable on this Friday morning. So And look, as I walk into this topic, I think it's a really important topic. And I think as a tech company leader, in many ways, tech companies are sort of at the forefront of dealing with a lot of modern topics. So maybe within your organization, or maybe not, you may be dealing with this yet. It also has to do with the size and scale of your company. But I do believe that if you haven't dealt with this, we all are going to eventually have to deal with it. And Pendo is dealing with it now. And I want to walk you through, again, what I think is a really challenging topic for me. And just as a quick background, I'm a technologist by background. I'm a computer scientist. I am not an expert in some of these topics, but I think very few of us are. So I want to talk a little bit about how Pendo is dealing with it. And I think should be no surprise to anyone on the call. North Carolina is a complicated state, and in many ways, it is at the forefront of what we're seeing in America today. We've seen a lot of conversation around divisiveness or divide. Depending on where you are in North Carolina, it's going to feel like a very, very different place. We're all talking about Raleigh. We all live in Raleigh, but many of our employees don't necessarily live in Wake County. Some of them commute in. You could live in Fuquay and get to downtown Raleigh within 20 minutes. So we have employees from all over this map. More importantly, because many of our employees come from local universities, and local universities, of course, are sourced from students and people from across the state. We have people with parents in various aspects of this state. So the reality is we're going to see a very wide range of beliefs, backgrounds, and upbringings at our companies. And this is creating more and more challenges. And I think this is unique in that if we were in California, this map would not look like this. It would basically be all one color, and they're going to have I think, fewer issues in this realm, or certainly different issues in this realm. Same for New York or other major metropolitan areas. So I think Raleigh, and specifically North Carolina, is we're at the forefront of some of the challenges we're seeing in America right now, and it's affecting our companies. And I think the first time I really saw it affect us as a business was HB2. And I don't want to get into a long political conversation around the merits and otherwise around HB2, but it was a very divisive law. And as a company at the time, I did, for the first time in company history, elect to make a statement around a law. And by the way, the CEO of a tech company, the last thing I want to do is be commenting on any laws being passed by our legislature. It's like the last thing I want to do in my life. But I felt it was necessary to make a statement because we decided as a company that inclusiveness, being able to attract the very best talent, independent of who they are or where they come from, was critical to our long-term success. So that's the decision we made. Now making that decision has ramifications. So while we took a stance around inclusiveness, wanting everyone to be welcome, hence taking a stance against this legislation, we also have people that are deeply conservative and deeply religious at our company working today who may have different beliefs around and may have different reasoning behind it. So in taking a side for inclusiveness, supporting one group, in some ways you run the risk of alienating another group, which is, if you're trying to create an environment where everyone's welcome, it's very, very, very challenging. It's very challenging. And that's really what I want to talk about today is how do we navigate these issues? How have other companies navigated issues, and how can we start creating more dialogue and conversation so we as businesses can start navigating through it? Because I think we're all going to have to. And as leaders, you can try to ignore the world around you and the impact in the businesses, but I would argue this morning that it will ultimately have an impact. So I want to talk today because I don't think we can ignore the world around us. we can't ignore the complexity and the honestly the divisiveness we're seeing in our society. And here's a company in the tech space. You may have heard of Coinbase. Coinbase is think of it as a bank almost, a wallet, so to speak, for Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and the whole. I'm not going to talk about Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. Don't worry. But they made a statement, very, very public statement in October of this year, that says that they are going to disallow discussion of politics and social causes at work. They call themselves a mission-focused company. And if you don't like it, you can leave. And of course, this is their choice. But they, when confronted with this challenge, is like, we don't want to deal with that. We're just trying to create software, right? And what happened? 2 weeks later, they reported a 5% departure in employees. And look, 5% isn't like a significant amount. It's not 50%. But trust me, if you saw a 5% turnover in a week, that would create work for you. Some of those employees may be very, very highly skilled employees. So taking that stance, saying we're not going to do this, had a ramification on their business. And for me, the reason I'm so passionate about this topic is, well, one, I'm highly competitive. I want to win. And I believe that Pendo will win if we're able to attract the best possible talent, the best possible talent. And I think the best possible talent is only found when you open your aperture and look very, very wide. You're not going to find the best possible talent if you narrowly focused on one small cohort, right? If you're only looking at and or interviewing or recruiting people that look exactly like you, you are absolutely missing out on opportunity. You're missing an opportunity not only for just pockets of talent that are typically untapped, you're also missing out on a diversity of opinions, ideas, creativity, backgrounds. For many of us, like one great idea can accelerate our business for years to come. And if that one great idea may come from someone who comes from a wildly different background than I came from, and I want that idea. I want it because for me, it's critical to our future success. So look, how do we get here? Like, how do we end up in this place? And this is going to be an uncomfortable slide, but the reality is, and this is hard for me to say as much as for me to hear anytime I hear it, there have been a systemic history of inequity in specifically this country, but also the world. And what we're seeing is that people are fed up with it. We saw that, we've been seeing it increasing, I think, for the last 10 to 15 years, but people are tired. People are tired of not having an equal playing field. People are tired of things being unfair. And the reality is we're all faced with the fact, and look, I'm inheriting it. I didn't do it. Really, it wasn't me. It doesn't matter whether it was me or not, folks. It doesn't matter like if it happened 10 or 20 years ago before you're running a business, before you're in business. The reality is it did happen. And all of us are a product of that system. I'm a product of that system. And look, I'm fortunate. I mean, obviously, I grew up as a more privileged class than others. And in some ways, I was less. In some ways, I was clearly more. But it's helped me get to where I've gotten to. And that doesn't take away from any of the hard work I've done. And trust me, I work very hard. But I am at least honest enough to realize that I had help. Whether it was in my face and I saw it all the time or not, I had help. And other groups do not. If anything, they have challenges every single day of their lives. I interview people. I think I'm well known. I've said this many times in many talks. I interview nearly every people, even to this day. We'll hit 500 employees next week. I have 6 interviews today for context. I hear amazing stories, folks. People that are first person in their generation ever to go to college, changing their, not only themselves and their lives, but changing their families' lives and future generations. And this is fresh and new. And that's the thing that really hits me when I interview people. While this decades of inequity, it feels like a long time ago, it's really not that long time ago. It's like a 1 or 2 generation thing. So we have to almost work to correct this issue. What we're also seeing is that our employees are wanting to bring their whole self to work. So what does that mean? Well, look, when I started my career and when many of you started your career, we did not bring our whole self to work. We weren't honest about who we are, what our relationship status was. We just frankly pretended that nothing happened outside work, and that was all very, very good. But the reality is, studies show that when you bring your whole self to work, you actually do better at work. There's a Harvard Business Review study. It talks about that persons of color actually succeed more when they're open and honest about what it means to be a person of color at work. So we actually are better when we're more vulnerable, when we're more honest, when we're more in touch with who we really are. So what you're seeing is a whole generation of employees that are bringing their whole self to work, that are very, very honest, that are looking for companies that support bringing their whole self to work. They want to be comfortable. I interviewed an Asian American woman who we hired at Pendo. She started a few weeks ago. She grew up in rural North Carolina. She was the only Asian American in her entire town, only one. Now, look, I've lived in California, folks. I went to Carnegie Mellon University, where it's about 70% Asian, just for context. I can't imagine being in a scenario where I was like the only single person that looked or was like me. But when I interviewed her, she just talked about, the small fact that we, recognize that Diwali, the Indian New Year, is a holiday, like makes her feel more comfortable at work. We get more out of her because of one small thing, like recognizing this holiday, because no other employer has. That's what people are looking for in their jobs. And I feel like it's my job as an employer to find ways to create safety around bringing your whole self to work. Now this year was one where bringing your whole self to work is heavy stuff, folks. It's like wearing like 10 backpacks. We're dealing with COVID. If you're a parent and dealing with COVID, you have remote learning. All of a sudden, we're like all teachers. Look, I am not a teacher. Neither is my wife. So that in itself creates lots of challenges. There's been racial tensions like we have not seen since the 60s, arguably. Maybe that's arguable, but certainly we all felt it in May of this year. For some of our employees that live outside of North Carolina, there's been record-setting natural disasters. The forest fires in California, we had more forest fires this year than we've ever had in any year prior. And of course, then we're all just captured by this election. And I didn't even list it here, but then the events post-election were probably just as divisive. Heck, I was joking with the company that I had to give up dry January on like January 6th, like just to deal with all the everything that was going on in the world. Folks, it's heavy stuff. We have, let's not kid ourselves. We haven't seen this level of issues in the world, maybe in my professional lifetime. And guess what? It's affecting all of our employees. You can't expect the same productivity, same engagement, same woohoo, I'm happy to come to work every day when they're dealing with this shit in their evenings. I know I can't. I keep the news off during the day because I really don't want to read what's going on. And I catch up at night and then I just drink wine. I know that's probably not the healthiest way to cope with these situations, but you got to do something, right? And it's our job. It's my job as an employer to create space, to create situations to help people deal. So we've done extra days off, mental health days. We've created forums where people can talk about impacts of these things. People need help to deal with these things. We just recently announced that we are paying for a mental health resource for every single employee of the company. If you want to talk to a professional therapist, someone to talk to, literally, you can get someone within a few hours. And this is something that I'm committed to because, again, I want the best out of everyone, and people are dealing with this, and we need to find a way through it. Now, the other flip side of this is if you don't do anything about it, there is risk, folks. There is risk. This is a business. This is a tool called Glassdoor. If you don't know about Glassdoor, you should know about it. Employees say whatever they want. And guess what? Prospective employees read Glassdoor before they come to work for you. So I just took a screenshot topical from Coinbase. You can see what a review was. If you were a diversity hire, stay away. So if you are someone who is of a diverse background and Coinbase is recruiting you, they're going to go to this page and they're going to be like, do I really want to deal with this? Like, no, thank you. I have choices, right? So your decisions, your behaviors are in the public. Just like every product on Amazon has a review, we as employers have a review. And folks, this is serious stuff. Like and look, you can complain about it and you can not like it. Trust me, I cry half the times I get a negative review. Like it hurts, like personally hurts me. I started this thing like from scratch. And of course I care about everyone. And when I read something negative about what I've tried to create, like I can tell you, it's like someone calling your baby ugly. Like it does not feel good. But there's lessons in it. There's feedback. There's ways we can get better. I try to turn it on its head and say, look, it's a level playing field. It keeps me honest. It's a good thing. Ultimately, it's a good thing, despite how challenging it is. And the other piece of it is people have options. And you may not be seeing this in your industry, but I see it in my industry. I'm now competing against companies like Twitter and Facebook and Amazon that are now saying everyone can be remote. So like the fact that we're in Raleigh and I was only competing against Raleigh company doesn't exist anymore. And oh, by the way, Facebook pays people like $1 million a year. So I got to deal with that. Be thankful you don't compete with folks like that if you're not a tech company. But Slack and Twitter and Square and I mean, tech, we have like negative unemployment. So like, that's not easy. So if I don't create a great environment, if I don't create a welcoming place, I am going to lose employees. And I'm not going to lose them to Raleigh companies, probably. I'm going to lose them to someone else who's probably going to pay them more than I'm going to pay them. And that's sobering when you think about, trying to grow a business. And we're trying to add over 500 people this year. So imagine trying to add 500 people. That's over 100 people a quarter. That's over 30 people a month. And you're competing against companies like this that can basically have empty, infinite wallets to compete against you. You got to be different. You really have to be cognizant. So what do we do? So the first thing we do is invest in culture. And for me, culture starts with values. So I think it's critical that you define, these are our values. This is what it means to work at our company. So we've done that. We've had these values now. We conceived of values when we started in 2014, we revisited those in 2016. And honestly, we're revisiting them now. We just kicked off a process this week on Tuesday where we told the whole company that you are going to take part in revising these. If we're missing something, if we don't like something, if something's like bad, like actually leading to dysfunction, now is your time to speak up. We are going to remove it. I think this is critical. Every company has a special way that they work. Write them down. Talk about them, celebrate them. The other thing we do is we encourage people to recognize others when they see them living the values. Why do we do that? One, if they depended on me to like it would never happen. Like not only am I busy, it's just like that doesn't scale. So we give out awards for folks that live the values through examples, and we celebrate those examples. Here's a story from a town hall about an individual who recognized another peer for being transparent around something. That's awesome. That's awesome. We do this every town hall. Every 2 weeks, we talk about values. We talk about why they matter. We talk about how they inform our decisions, how people live them. We celebrate, this is what it means to be at Pendo. And these 7 things may not resonate with you. They shouldn't. You got your own 7 things or 6 things or 5 things. Define them, write them down, and hire and fire based on these things. I was just talking about this the other day. We had someone who couldn't handle brutal honesty. Well, maybe they don't belong here. That's tough to say, but if someone doesn't align with these values, doesn't work, yes, it's probably not a good fit. We talked about revisiting them, but one of the reasons we're revisiting them is that we are not just a Raleigh-based company. We're not just a U.S.-based company. We have folks in like Israel who are like, what are all these Americans talking about? Like, why does this all matter? We have folks in Tokyo, Sydney. We have multiple offices in the UK, and those countries have their own issues. We opened up a UK office during Brexit. Fun times. But I think that's a big part of how we're trying to evolve our values, is to find ways to make sure they're global. And the interesting fact is, this is something I just reported on this week, that 33% of our employees, and this is just based on growth and attrition, have never met each other in person. Of course, this is a new phenomenon due to COVID, but do the math on your own company, folks. What is the percentage of people? People have probably left this year and people have probably started. What's that equation look like? That's crazy. That means that there is very limited personal relationship that people have to fall back on, which is risky. We've actually seen higher attrition in COVID due to this fact. We've actually had the most attrition in our company's history for under 1 year. People aren't really tied in. Like, there's a less tethering to the culture in the business. So be very, very cognizant of this. The other thing I learned this year is I think struggle is, probably the right word, with diversity and making progress on it. We're really clear. We have passion. Like, I care about it. Nothing was happening. So what have we done? We hired a person who, this is their job. We have Jessica Jolly. She's our director of diversity, equity, inclusion. Like, she is tasked with helping navigate and lead us through some of these challenges. We have a new chief people officer who has had experience in this area. And then we have a set of affinity groups, or they're also known as employee resource groups, but these are groups of individuals who identify and also allies of those groups, so they can just educate the company about what it means to be within one of these groups. And they meet regularly, they report out regularly to the company, they host events, and a lot of it's about awareness, education, and honestly creating a safe space to have conversations. Sometimes we as a company just need to carve out a space where if someone wants to go talk about certain things that are hard things, like, these are the spaces to go do it. Now, the benefit of carving them out is that people know where to go, and they just don't happen randomly across your company. And this is why we have these, and I think these are an important part of how we've scaled. And this is just a quick idea of how we think about diversity, equity, inclusion. Of course, diversity and talent, that's very often, I call it a numbers game. This is just, we can measure this pretty well, and we publish our stats. Are you inclusive? Do people feel belonging? Again, I talked about how challenging this can be with being in North Carolina and how broad we are. Data and accountability. Do we have goals? How do we track them? And then, how are we partnering in the community? Are we partnering in the community? How are we known in the community? That matters. It matters because we're trying to recruit prospective employees, and how we show up in the community helps people understand, like, hey, would that be an interesting place for me to work? So this is very, very important. And the other thing is, to be a leader, you got to walk the walk. And I can sit here and talk all about all the things I care about, but if we do nothing, and if we don't act, like that's meaningless, right? So in line with this, what have we done? We have actually published our diversity statistics, so you can see what it is. And look, in many ways, this is a bit of a call to action. We have work to do. I'm not saying we are perfect. I am not saying we're done. I am not saying we're even great. I'm just saying that we are going to be transparent about our journey here, and keep us honest, and hold us accountable to our words. And I'm totally comfortable with that. A friend of mine, a local entrepreneur in Raleigh, Bill Sproul, asked me if we would move money to a Black-owned M&F bank. And honestly, without hesitation, I said yes. And we moved, actually, I don't know, I think it was $1.5 million, maybe more, but at least $1.5 million. And in a bank, and that's going to help the local community. And I'm really proud of that decision. And honestly, it's a pretty easy one for me to make. And yes, that may mean that our interest rates are a little different than we had in our other, but that's an easy decision. This is going to do good, and I think it's good for the community, and it's good for Pendo. The other thing I want to close on is talking about how we think of ourselves to the company, and people talk, and I'm sure there's some folks that are in smaller businesses on, and you may say, hey, we're a family, and we feel like a family, and people have said that Pendo feels like a family, but I would argue that if I had a choice between having a family or a team, we're a team. And while families are great, and there's obviously a lot of warmth and togetherness, I like to think of us more as a high-performing team. And I use multiple metaphors for teams. It's actually a K-pop group called One Team. So teams aren't just athletic. Teams can also be artists. What does it mean to be a team? I think the interesting characteristics, this is how I would distinguish it really from families, is that teams have a common mission and purpose. Families honestly don't. They're just frankly all from the same bloodline. Our purpose is helping people create great software. That's what you sign up for. That's what we do for customers. We publish it. We interview. We make sure people understand that mission. If you don't care about helping people create great software, probably not the best place for you. That's what we do, right? And you have a mission and purpose for you, whatever that is. It's okay that people self-select into that. But that's kind of number one. And of course, then we join together to accomplish that mission and purpose. We have shared working agreements and values. I don't know about you, but I don't have the best relationship with my sibling. We do not have the same values. Love her. We're in the same family. Wouldn't say we necessarily share the exact same values, despite coming from the same parents. And the last thing, which is clearly very, very different than a family, is that our composition changes. People choose to come into a team. People choose to leave a team. Some people love the startup phases and getting you off the ground. Some people hate the startup phases and want to come when it's already established. You're going to need actually different types of players on your team, depending on what phase and what journey you're in as a business, right? And people change jobs. So it's clearly a team, businesses. Not necessarily a family, because of, I think, of these four characteristics. And it's important to note that teammates don't actually have to like each other or even get along. I think a lot of us know about the late Kobe Bryant and Shaq had a tumultuous relationship. It's well reported, but they won championships because they put aside their individual issues and they focused on team success. Now, the interesting thing, I pulled a few quotes from Reid Hoffman. He's a founder of LinkedIn. The crazy thing is when you actually put aside your individual differences and you achieve team success, that actually leads to individual success. The reason we know and we revere some of these athletes is because they are champions of the world. And you don't become a champion of the world if you are an impossible teammate that only cares about yourself. Those aren't the employees we want in our company, is it, folks? People that only care about themselves and oh, I don't like this person, therefore, I can't work with him. Is that winning? No, it's not winning. The other thing is, and this is a very, very fresh metaphor, but I pulled this from the Super Bowl. You may have seen this. If you haven't seen this, it's called The Middle, the commercial by Jeep starring Bruce Springsteen. It's actually a great backstory on how he's turned down every commercial in the past prior to this one. So this is a pretty special thing to have the boss, Bruce Springsteen, in a commercial. But he talks about how we seem to have lost the middle in America, the common ground, the things that bind us. And I'd encourage you, as you're thinking about your business, what is the middle for your business? For us, it's our core values. It's taking care of customers. It's helping each other succeed, recognizing others. You saw how we have that as part of our culture. I shared this with the entire company a few days ago, but while we may not agree on everything, and those can be personal choices, they can be political beliefs, they can be business ideas. We have very, very strong debates on how we're going to go to market, or how we're going to build product, or what product we actually should be building, or what marketing campaign is the perfect campaign, or how to trust me, folks, we have very strong personalities. They have very, very, very differing opinions, but we sometimes forget the fact that we are far more alike than we are different. We all chose to be at a fast growth company. We all chose to be a tech company. We all chose to sign up for this mission. We all chose to align to these core values. We all choose to serve the same customers. We're almost exactly alike. Yes, we have differences at the edges. We live different lifestyles in some instances. Some people have families, some people do not. These are their choices. These are superficial things. They are surface level differences. And I find that now we seem to be fighting a hell of a lot more about surface level difference than we ever have before. I don't quite understand it. But I feel as a leader, it's my job to remind people that these are all surface level and to find what our core and middle is. I fell in love with this TV show. If you don't have it, it's on Apple TV. Honestly, this is my gift to you all. If you have not seen Ted Lasso, go pay whatever it is for Apple TV. Yes, I know it's crazy that we have all these subscriptions and whatever. This is worth it. Watch this TV show. It's about an American football coach coaching a Premier League soccer game, but in a world where very few things on the television bring me joy, like this will bring you joy. And we need a lot more joy right now. He quotes actually a quote attributed to Walt Whitman: "Be curious, not judgmental." And when I think about when I get introduced to someone who's maybe a little different than me, or I hear an idea even at work on a business plan that's different than what I had expected or had conceived of or thought of, I have choices on how to respond. I can just immediately be judgmental, lash out, tell the person, "Oh, that's not a really good plan." Or I could stop and ask questions. I can be curious. I can seek to understand, why did you come up with it? Where did you come from? What inspired you to do this? And the reality is, it's a very different reaction. And being curious leads to learning. It leads to growth. It leads to, and maybe you take pieces of that idea and mash it up with another idea, and that becomes the ultimate idea. But curiosity is a powerful behavior, and I would encourage you to be curious rather than judgmental when you hear something. I'm finding far too much in society we're just rushing to some answer, some judgment based on what we think, rather than actually asking questions. Why is someone doing this? Wow, that must be tough. And when you do that, you'll grow. Not just your company. So look, interesting topic this morning. I hope I at least imparted on you that I think as leaders, we can't ignore the world around us. And it's absolutely impacting all our business. If it hasn't impacted your business yet, it will. I mean, this is an example of Google. You can choose to do something about it, or I'm not trying to say this is the future, but Google's unionizing. It's a little bit crazy. And they aren't doing it for more money, folks. Google pays people millions of dollars a year. It's not about money or benefits. Their benefits are ridiculous. It's about influencing the company's policies. It's about how they deal with these causes. It's about social, this is such a strong issue, such an important issue, that honestly, Google doesn't have an answer. They're getting forced by having a union. Don't let yourself be forced. Don't let it get to the point where it's like this. I like controlling things as much as I possibly can as a leader. So the question is, do you want to be proactive in this or reactive? Do you want to wait until it's a problem, or do you want to try to prevent it from being a problem? What are your values? What kind of company do you want? Are you just trying to ignore all these things and pretend it doesn't exist? Trust me, I wake up many days and want that. You can't. And one of the companies I think that I do like, one, I like their stuff, but I am definitely admire was Patagonia. This is a pretty funny story. Like in 2019, they were tired of all the tech and bank bros, for lack of a better word, who wear their like branded vests. Like you'd see a Patagonia logo with Morgan Stanley. And it wasn't what they wanted as part of their brand. They care about sustainability and they care about giving back to the world and doing good. And honestly, some of these banks, like, not to say anything bad about banks, many of them are good, but like there is a bit of an ethos around some of these large hedge funds specifically, and large banks, and specifically to Wall Street. And this is certainly not talking about any local banks or anything like that, but and they just refuse to sell them branded vests. And that was the decision they made, that yes, it cost their business revenue, but I think they were willing to make that change because it was in line with what their employees wanted. It was aligned with what their vision was for the company. And by pretty much every measure, their business is not hurt. I still see plenty of Patagonia walking around town. So they decided who they want to be. And it's going to attract the right kind of employees. It's going to help them achieve the right kind of business success, because they were unafraid of being strong about what they're willing to say yes and no to. So with that, I'll take a break and open it up some questions. So.
All right, Todd, thank you so much for sharing. We have a few questions that we're going to be able to get to. The first question is, what is Pendo doing to address and promote alternative commuter options and benefits to their employees, including but not limited to bike, bus, carpool, or telework?
Yeah, well, I'll caveat this, say that in COVID, no one's currently coming to work, so we're not really doing much of anything. So I guess that's what we're doing. We're saying everyone can work from home, which cuts down on what the need for transportation, period. But however, when we're in an office, specifically within Raleigh, we do pay parking if folks need parking. If you don't need parking, we take the money we would pay for a parking spot and put it back in people's paychecks to pay for bus passes, to pay for bike maintenance or Citrix cycles or what have you. So it's about $125 a month goes in people's paycheck. And we actually have about, I think 40% of our employees that take advantage of that benefit in Raleigh, including myself. I walk to work pretty much every day, except for when it's 100 degrees and humid, then I ride a bike. So.
All righty, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. The next question is, how does Pendo determine what affinity groups to start and who should lead them?
Well, look, I think a lot of one of our core values, you may have seen the 7, was bias to act. I mean, some of it is just based on people's, people raising their hand and saying, I want to do this. So we don't actually appoint leaders to affinity groups. Affinity group leaders kind of volunteer themselves and step in. So actually, the one that's most recently added is the neurodiverse. And honestly, folks, I didn't even know what that meant. I had to Google it, and neurodiverse is individuals who have ADHD and Tourette's and are dealing with these things in our workplace. And it just came down to a group of employees who are like really passionate about these topics and wanted to bring them up. And they don't just talk about what it means to be in our workforce and have like ADHD. Talk about needs a parent and have children who have some of these issues and how to help them cope and deal and become functioning members of society. And I think someone just raised their hand and said they want to do it. That's it. So we don't really govern it too aggressively.
All righty, thank you. And we have one final question. How does your company onboard new talent during COVID and infuse the culture into new employees during a pandemic? What strategies does Pendo use to help new employees feel included and part of the culture during these challenging times?
A lot of things, is the truth. And we continually experiment. So when things don't work, we fix it. But we, of course, are onboarding all virtually today. If someone's in Raleigh, because our Raleigh office is open on a voluntary basis, now we are just having people come in the office to grab their computers and things like that. But that's a recent thing in the last month. But in every other office around the world, we actually ship everything to their homes, set things up. We have then people get grouped into monthly onboarding classes. Onboarding class at Pendo is about a week long. It's very cross-functional. You hear from leaders across the entire business, including myself. We educate people on values, what each department does, product training, it's kind of the works. And then we also try to pair up each individual with a pen pal. Pen pal is someone who's going to be writing to them regularly, being someone they can lean on when they have questions around who to go to for various topics. And then we also now have a mentoring program as well, where a leader in the company can, if you opt in, like, hey, I want a mentor, we'll pair you with someone who's a leader in the company to get a mentor. In addition, pen pal is typically a peer, a mentor is typically someone higher up.
Oh, thank you so much, Todd, for sharing with us from company culture to strategies to mentorship and how you're leading such a powerful company through difficult times, but definitely setting the course and being an example for other organizations and companies. Thank you so much for sharing with us. I'll now turn it over to Jay Irby.
Thanks, Des. And thank you so much, Todd. And thanks for sharing really the values and issues that are not only important to Pendo and to you and how you lead, but should be important to all of us in our community that lead people. So thank you very much. I want to take a moment and thank all of you for attending the C-Suite's Perspective. I do have a couple announcements. We ask that you please join us for our next Community Success Forum. It's 3 events. Number 1, Dismantling Systematic Racism. It's going to be on February 18th. Courageous Conversations, Young, Gifted, and Black Recruiting and Retaining Exceptional Talent on February 25th. And the Chamber Professional Women's Leadership, Seizing the Moment, a New Day for Women in Leadership on March 9th. We ask that you don't forget to register for our next C-Suite's Perspective that's going to be held on April 9th with Bill Spruill. And you can find information about all of these wonderful events on the Chamber's website. Of course, it's at raleigh-chamber.org.